Okay, perfect. So yesterday we were talking about governance performance domain. Today we will talk about scope, schedule, and cost. I thought if you can combine all these three things together, it will make sense and we can compare and see what type of activities happen at what point of time. And because these three are very much interrelated, so it will help in discussing all the three things together. So the way we'll do it is we'll first understand what these performance domains are in terms of introduction. Then we'll talk about general activities that happen or that are carried out in these performance domain so that you can create a mental picture of scope, schedule, and cost, which is called finance these days. Then we will talk about the processes so that you can see what the exact technical name of these processes are. You don't have to memorize it, but having a look at it always helps. And then at the end, we'll talk about the exam mindset, which will help you in answering questions from these domains for predictive approach. Okay, so approximately 10 to 15 minutes in every segment, and we'll cover the today's revision. Okay, let us start with the introduction first. What is scope? Scope is basically the work that we are supposed to do, right? And when we talk about scope performance domain, it focuses on defining, validating, and controlling what work is included and excluded in the project. Basically, you would try to understand what is it that we have to deliver, list it down completely, right? When the work gets completed, get it validated from the customer that yes, this is what we have done. Do you think it meets your expectations? If yes, they'll accept it. If not, you will have to make some changes and then they will accept it. Okay, that is part of validating. And then controlling means making changes. So defining the scope is understanding what is to be delivered. Validating means getting whatever has been completed checked with the customer. And if the customer does not accept it, controlling means making changes to ensure that it is well accepted by the customers. Right? That's what we do in terms of managing scope in the project. Schedule talks about planning, developing, managing, and controlling the timeline of the project. Okay. See, scope talks about what needs to be delivered. Schedule will talk about when will it be delivered. Right? So let us say that you create a WBS, work breakdown structure. It has multiple work items in that. You will have work packages. When will those work packages be delivered is a part of your schedule. Right? So planning how you will understand the activities required, sequencing the activities, estimating how much time it will take, and then putting it all together and developing the schedule. Then when the work happens, trying to understand whether the work is happening exactly as per the plan or not. If not, then making some changes is called controlling, is a part of your schedule performance domain. Understanding the activities, sequencing the activities, estimating them, and then developing the schedule. After the schedule is developed, whenever the team completes the work at a given point of time, you will check whether the work is happening as per the plan or not. That's a part of your schedule. And the third part is the cost or the finance part. Finance focuses on the same thing, but on financial resources. Right? So schedule is about planning, developing, managing, and controlling the timelines. Finance is about planning, funding, managing, and controlling the financial resources. Basically, money, the cost that you need to complete the project. Right? So scope is what needs to be delivered. Schedule is when it is supposed to be delivered. And finance is how much would be needed in terms of money, of course, to complete the project. Right? Managing all the things that you have committed is a part of scope management. Managing exactly as per the time that you have committed is a part of schedule management. And managing exactly as per the funding that you have received is a part of finance management. So your success in the project would be defined by whether you have delivered everything or not, whether you have delivered everything on time or not, whether you have delivered exactly as per the committed budget or not, right? And hence all these three things put together become something called performance measurement baseline, right? So your basic, the core measurement of your performance happens on these three performance domains, these three areas of the project. Scope, schedule, and finance. Of course, your success depends on how happy the stakeholders are. It also depends on the quality part of it. It also depends on a few other things. Right? So you will have your own success criteria for the project. But majorly, you have to deliver everything as per the time, as per the budget. That's why these things, three things put together are called performance measurement baseline in the project. Right? Why are these important? Why are these three domains so important in the project? Scope is important because if you do not define what you have to deliver in the project, then the customer will keep on providing or asking you to do something extra, right? Which is what is called as scope creep. So when the time is not allowed, when extra resources are not allowed, when the extra money is not given, yet the scope is continuously added. That is what is called scope creep. So if you don't define the scope properly, if you don't take a sign off on this is what I'm going to deliver, then continuously the scope creep will happen. So managing scope domain well helps you in preventing the scope creep. It also establishes a very clear agreement between stakeholder and team members. Stakeholders will say these are things that I want. Team members will say that these are the things that we will deliver. Right? So you manage scope well, you will manage that agreement also well. It also enables in accurate schedule, cost, and resource planning. See, when you manage scope well in traditional approach, in predictive approach, you will create something called WBS, work breakdown structure. It's a detailed list of everything to be delivered to the customer. If you have done that well, right, which means you have 100% understanding of what is to be delivered in the project. Now, when you have 100% understanding of what is to be delivered in the project, you will be able to estimate the time, estimate the cost, estimate the resources needed much, much better, which is nothing but bottom up estimating. So you will be able to apply bottom up estimating, which is the most accurate estimation technique that you can apply in the project. It also acts as the foundation of change control decisions. Right? So whenever any changes happen in the project where you need to take a decision, you as a project manager need to talk to change control board for a decision. They will be able to take a decision if they understand the scope well. So if they see that this change would mean that they are going beyond the scope, they will not approve the change. If they think this is a part of the scope of the project, they will approve the change, right? So life becomes easy when they are trying to take a decision on change control. That's why we should be able to manage the scope performance domain well. Right? You should know what is to be delivered. You should also know what is not to be delivered. You will have great clarity. Your team will have great clarity. Your sponsors, stakeholders will have great clarity in the project. Right? That's why scope is very, very important for project management. Then schedule performance domains. Right? Now, why is this important? Why is working on a schedule so important in a way that you plan the schedule, you develop the schedule, then you manage the schedule, you check whether you are delivering as per the time or not regularly, every week, every 2 weeks? Why is that so important to be done? Right? Because first, if you manage schedule well, you will have a good understanding of how the team is making progress with respect to time. You cannot run a project indefinitely unless and until you are managing a political or government type of project. Okay? Even then, there has to be an end, right? So the point is that if you are working on a project, you would want to know whether you are moving at the correct speed or not, right? So creating that schedule gives you that opportunity to visualize the time-based progress in the project, right? Second, it also helps you in understanding how to coordinate the resources, dependencies, and milestones. So you have a schedule in place, you know what is to be delivered when. So you will be able to manage the resources better. You will be able to utilize the resources properly. Who should be kept on bench? Who should be put on this work? Who should be put in that work? You will be able to take all those decisions only when you have a clear schedule picture created in your documentation. Right? Third thing, it also supports in forecasting and corrective actions. When you manage schedule, one part of managing schedule is to regularly monitor whether you are delivering on time or not. Whenever you find that, okay, you are lagging behind, you will be able to take some corrective actions. So it supports that. If you don't have the schedule, if you don't have, if you have not created the Gantt chart, if you have not created the project calendar, you will not come to know whether you are on time or not. Only at the end of the project, you'll somehow know that, okay, it has gone beyond the timelines. Right? Third, another point which is very, very important is on directly impact of the cost, risk, and stakeholder confidence. How well you have created the schedule, how well you are managing the schedule would be directly related to how much you are spending in the project, what type of problems you might face in the project, how happy your stakeholders are. That's why you will see that even if it is a very immature way of managing project, people would have some or the other schedule for sure. They might not create in detail, even if it is immature, but they will talk about schedule because schedule has direct impact on cost, risk, and stakeholders' confidence. Hence, it is very, very important that we manage schedule better. Third part is on the finance. You can also call it as cost. Right? This is where we are talking about the money that will be required to run the project. Why managing that cost is important? One, because it ensures that the project remains economically viable. It should not happen that you are managing the project, you are delivering on time, but the budget had exceeded 20-30%. And then you realize that the organization does not have the money. Sponsor could not arrange that money. Right? So in order to keep the project economically viable, you must manage the finances well. When you create the budget and you take an approval from management, you take an approval from sponsor, what happens is they are also aware that at this point of time, I would need to arrange the money. So it supports your funding approval and release of funds. So you have to give that visibility to your management that this is a 3 years project. Every 3 months, I would need this much amount of money. And then when you manage and monitor and you see that, okay, I need more money or less money, you keep revising that understanding with them, which is called funding limit reconciliation. Whenever you check how much you have already spent, how much more you might need, how much less you might need, you keep informing that to your stakeholders, to your management, to your sponsor, right? So that they can make some arrangement and provide you the money that you need. So if you manage finances well, you will be able to do that as well. It also helps in early detection of cost overruns. See, you have created the budget and you are trying to monitor whether you are spending more or not after 6 months. So only after 6 months you will come to know whether you have exceeded the budget or not. But if you do it every month, you will come to know it every month. If you can do it every 7 days, every week, you will come to know whether you are overspending or underspending. Right? And these information are very, very important when you are managing the project. Because every week, if you know that, yes, we are going good, next week you will work with full confidence. Okay, hence managing finance is important. And the last point, it provides objective data for forecasting and decision making. When you already know that your CPI is 0.8, then you know that you are only working at 80% efficiency. So for the remaining work in the project, you will need more money. Right? So you will be able to forecast as well when you manage the finances better. Right? So as you can see, we are talking about targets, we are talking about scope, schedule, and finances. Properly defining it, ensuring it is documented, ensuring that we monitor it throughout the project, and whenever some changes happen, ensuring that we are controlling it. Controlling means making changes to ensure that we are delivering exactly what is required, exactly when it is required, and exactly spending how much ever we have committed for. That's the success of managing scope, schedule, and finance. Very, very important because it helps you build the confidence within the team and within the stakeholders as well. Right? That's why these performance domains are important. Scope, schedule, and finance. Clear, everyone? Good reminder. Any questions in anything that we have discussed if you have not understood anything? Any term that you are not clear with? Yes, Priya, please go ahead.
Amit, I have one question related to change request.
Okay.
Uh, is it the right forum right
Yeah,
now
yeah,
to?
we can talk about it. Please tell
Yeah.
me.
So I have a confusion in that. Suppose I want to modify anything, any related to any plan, like quality management plan or anything related to
Mhm.
in the planning after planning stage. So should I go and raise a change request, or how the process will go in that
You will
case?
always need to raise a change request because as a product manager, you cannot directly make the changes. Okay. All the plans that you create are discussed with team members, are approved by sponsors, or management. So whenever you make a change, it is very, very important that you inform those changes to everybody. And when you're making the changes, you cannot make it on your own. So you will have to seek approval and then only you can do it. So it is always better to raise a change request, or you can say submit a change request, get it approved, and then make the changes.
Okay. So in each, like for each thing, like
Everything.
each
Yes.
everything, I have to go through the change request. Like
Yes,
if
yes.
in the
Whatever changes
question
that
it
you are
is.
making to the plan, you see before planning, if you're
Hmm.
making any changes, you are free to do that. But once you have planned and once you have circulated it, and then you are changing something, just imagine this that we had planned that we will use analogous estimating technique, okay, or a particular tool or a particular software. And now we are saying, okay, we will not use that tool, we will not use this technique, we will not use that software. So you need to inform to people, right? And unless and until you get it approved from somebody, how will you make those changes? Because making these changes of software, tools, techniques would impact your schedule, would impact your cost. So if it is going to impact your project, you need to inform your management about it. Okay. And hence we will make those changes. Now, understand this that we are not talking about local work that we do. See, while we are working, we think that, okay, can we apply this? Can we apply that? It can be done. But if my plan needs to change, okay, plan would be a, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 page document, a quality management plan, scope management plan, a schedule management plan, all these put together could be 20, 30 pages. If I need to make any changes in that plan, then I must go for approval. Okay. Decisions should always be taken participate by involving people. And once the decision has been taken, if the plan needs to change, we must always go for approval, get it approved, and then only change the plans.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Amit. Understood.
no
Yeah.
problems. Any other question, anyone? So that was about introduction to these domains. Now let us try to understand what activities happen. How do we do it? Right? We said that we must manage scope, schedule, and finance well. How do we do that? What activities do we carry out? Right? Let us discuss those. First, for scope. Right? So in order to manage the scope well, you need to ensure that you have collected all the requirements from all the different sources. You have discussed with stakeholders, you have discussed with management, you have discussed with team, you have discussed with some potential suppliers, you have gone through the documents like contracts, like regulations, like industrial standards that are applicable in your project, and you have understood the complete requirement of the project, right? So you have collected and documented detailed requirements as much as possible. You have listed down all those requirements, because only when you understand all the requirements, you can summarize and you can create a scope statement, you can create a WBS. Right? The first step is to collect and document the requirements. Then you define the project and product scope. Okay. In every project, you would be building a product, probably. Right? You could be doing a service also, you could be doing consulting as well. But if you're building a product, then you must define the product scope as well, which is basically product specification. Beyond the product specification, you will also need to communicate, you will also need to ensure quality, you will also need to procure a few things that will become a part of your project scope. Right? So you must define these project and product scope well. Then create a WBS, work breakdown structure, starting with major deliverables, breaking into control account, planning packages, and finally to work packages. Right? So when you look at this structure, you know that I need to complete everything that is there at the bottom to be able to complete everything at the top. Right? So you must create a WBS in every predictive approach project so that you have 100% understanding of what needs to be delivered, which is called 100% rule of WBS. Every WBS must talk about the complete project. right? Then take a sign off on the WBS, take a sign off on the scope statement, take a sign off on something called WBS dictionary, which is nothing but talking about the WBS work items in detail. Right. So we discussed WBS is a structure. Now, if this is a structure, you will be mentioning one or two words here to talk about what that deliverable is. When will that be delivered? Who is responsible for it? How much budget? What activities need to be carried out? All those things should be added into something called WBS dictionary. So your WBS is a structure. Let's say we have built that structure on the wall. Pick up one item from that, write in a page every single thing about that particular deliverable. Add multiple pages for multiple work package items, and you will get something called WBS dictionary. Right? So whenever you define the scope, whenever you create a WBS, and whenever you create a WBS dictionary, you take a sign off, which makes that a scope baseline. Till then, it is only scope. Once you have taken a sign off, it becomes a scope baseline. Baseline means reference, right? Which means you will not deliver anything beyond whatever has been written in scope statement, WBS, and WBS dictionary. Neither more nor less. Okay. So you establish that. Once you have signed off, you have the detail of everything. Then all you need to do is whenever the team member completes the work, get it validated with the customers. Hey, this work package is complete. Please have a look. They will accept it or they will reject it. If they accept it, it's great. If they don't accept it, then you need to make some changes, which is called controlling the scope. Right? So you'll have to make some changes. So you'll have to go through the formal change request, make some changes, and then ensure that the scope is controlled. Right? And keep preventing and managing the scope creep. Ensure that if customer is regularly asking you to add some items, right, then you say that, okay, this is a part of scope creep. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough resources. We will not be able to manage that, which is what is called scope creep. Must be managed as well. Right? So how do we manage scope in the best way possible? Understand the requirements, define the scope, create a WBS, take a sign off on whatever you have created, call it as a baseline. That becomes your reference. After that, whenever anything is getting completed, get it checked with the customer. If they accept it, great. If they don't accept it, make changes through formal change request. Right? And ensure that you are managing the scope creep throughout the project. Right? That's how you handle or manage scope in projects. Yes, Sonam, please, your question.
Sorry, Amit just wanted to confirm uh, this WBS and WBS dictionary will be a part of creating the work breakdown structure, right? It
Yeah,
is.
WBS is a work breakdown structure itself.
Hmm.
Okay. You supplement this information or you add more information for all the items in the WBS in a
Hmm.
WBS dictionary. So WBS is a structure, the
Hmm.
hierarchical structure. And for
Hmm.
every item detail, you go to WBS dictionary.
Yeah. Okay. So once we create this, then we create this WBS dictionary to
Yes.
for all the details.
For the details, yes.
And then a scope statement. I mean, once we collect the requirements, as it says, defining project and product scope. So
Yeah.
scope statement, defining scope statement is a part of this particular step, right? Defining project and
Yeah.
product scope.
Correct.
And it
So
is a
once you have
separate.
understood the requirements in detail,
Hmm.
right, so you have list of 780 items.
Hmm.
Deliver this at this point of time, communicate at this point of time, call me for a meeting. Meeting should happen every week. A stand-up should happen every day, right? All those are requirements, communication requirement, technical requirement, financial requirement, product requirement.
Hmm.
You summarize it, all those information,
Hmm.
right? And then create a summary document saying, okay, based on whatever requirements we have understood,
Hmm.
this looks like the scope of the project. And that will
Hmm.
be your scope statement. Yes.
Oops. And that will be a part of scope management plan as well, right? This.
No, plan is different. Okay.
Okay.
See, when we talk about scope management plan or any management plan,
Hmm.
it's more like how we will do these things.
Hmm.
Okay. So in your scope management plan, you will mention how you will collect the requirements. Right. So see, how can we collect requirements? We can talk to customers.
Hmm.
We can look at contracts. We can look at business case. We can look at project charter. What
Hmm.
is applicable in this project?
Hmm.
Okay. Will be mentioned in scope management plan. Similarly, we can define project scope statement and product scope statement. But is the product applicable in this project? Are we doing a consulting project? Product is not applicable. It's a service, right? So this is not applicable. So we'll mention in the plan, product scopes is not applicable. It's a service. Okay. So scope management plan will basically tell us how we will carry out these activities, which tool technique will be used, who will be responsible for it. That will be there in the scope management plan. These help us in managing the scope. Plan tells us how to carry out these things in the project.
Okay, so but like scope management plan is a part of project management plan, but
Yes.
this scope statement, I mean this like summary
Mhm.
document, it's a project document. It's not a part of
Yes.
project management plan.
It's
Okay.
not a part of plan, correct. It's
It's
a planning document. It's a document, but it's not a plan.
hmm.
Okay. Plan will always say, do this in the future. This person will do this at this point of time using this much amount of money, using that resources, right? So plan will always be a guidance. These are information, isn't it?
Correct.
That this needs to be delivered. This is my work package. These are the details of it. These are more like information. So these are your documents, right? Which is a part
Project
of your
document.
scope.
We call it project documents, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Right. Yeah, Shilpa, please,
Thank
your
you.
question. No problems.
Amit, we will be finding a lot of planning documents and all, right? So even during our test, okay. So
Yeah.
I literally got confused when to update what.
Okay. So there's a PDF, okay, that I have where I have mentioned all the documents, what that document is, when to use it, and why do we use it. Okay, I'll share that PDF, and there's one video also that I have done. I'll share that also with you for a quick revision of all the documents put together. Will
Great.
that work?
Sure, that will be
Yeah,
fine.
it will be a good revision for you. And if after going through that and the video still there's some doubt, let me know. We'll try to cover that as a revision session as well.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just remind me that I don't have handy something to write down. If you can write it down or just
Sure,
send me a message on
I will
WhatsApp.
make a note of it and I will.
Please. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And I'll send it with to everybody. Yes, of course, Srinivas. It is there. I have already shared, but I'll again share it one more time. No problems.
Fine.
Then we'll go to schedule. Okay. As we discussed, schedule is basically managing the timelines of the project. Okay. So what do we do? First, we identify what activities we need to do. See, in order to understand how much time anything will take, you need to understand what do we need to do. We need to purchase something, we need to install something, we need to commission something, we need to check something. What are the activities that we are supposed to do? So first we will define the activities and then we will sequence it. See, sequencing it is important because there are multiple activities that you could do in parallel. If you don't spend time thinking about the activities sequence, you will do everything one after the other and it will take a long time to complete the project. Rather than that, we can have multiple people working in parallel and look at activities that can be done in parallel. Right? So first we'll define the activities and then we will sequence the activities. Once we have done that, we will estimate how much time these activities will take. Right? You will use estimation techniques like analogous, finding a similar activity in previous project, parametric, finding a comparable activity where you may need to apply some formula, 3-point estimating, when your historical information is not available, you are relying on present condition. Right? These are three things, three estimation techniques that you can use: analogous, parametric, and 3-point estimating to estimate the activity duration. Now, when you are estimating the whole project, you may use another technique called bottom-up estimating. Right? Wherein again, for bottom-up estimating, what you do is you go to the work package level, and for the work package, you are again using the same techniques: analogous, parametric, and 3-point. But what you do with bottom-up is you always focus on the complete project and you add your estimate for every work package and you get the estimate for the complete project. Right? When you get the duration, put a start date to it, you'll automatically get the end date, which is nothing but your project schedule, which is nothing but a project calendar. Right? So you will have your network diagram ready. You would also understand what critical path is. Critical path is basically a series of all the activities, right? Which is taking the longest time in your project. Why is it so important? Because if it is taking longest time in the project, which means it defines your project duration. Anything goes wrong on that path, your project schedule will get delayed. Right? So you'll develop the schedule and highlight the critical path. These days, there are multiple softwares which will automatically find the critical path and highlight it for you. Right? Then you take a sign off on that. It becomes your schedule baseline. Baseline means it's now a reference. It's now a target for me. That these are the timelines at which I need to deliver these work package items, deliverables, whatever we need to do. Right? Now, once your baseline is ready, you need to monitor throughout the project if there are any dependencies or constraints in progress and implement any corrective action that might be needed. Right? So when you check the progress, you may realize that we have done less work. You may realize we have done more work. Right? Less work means we are behind schedule. More work means. Is it clear? Any questions in mind? Okay. If not, then let's move ahead to cost, or you can call it finance. Right? How do we do that? First, estimate the project cost. See, activities you have already identified, right? While you are working with schedule. So you already know what activities are to be done. Sit with your team, apply the same estimation techniques and estimate how much money would be needed in this activities, add it all together, you will be able to get your budget. Once you know the budget, take a sign off on that. It will become your cost baseline, which is again your reference. Whenever the team completes the work, check how much they have spent in the project, compare it with plan. Right? So cost baseline becomes your plan. After that, you need to ensure that you have the funding available in the project throughout the project. Right, which is called funding limit reconciliation. Every 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, you check how much you have spent, how much more you need, and keep that information going to the management, to the sponsor, so that they can arrange the money in the project. Right? You are tracking the expenditures and commitments. This becomes your actual. Right? Baseline is your plan. Tracking the expenditures is your actual. Compare the plan and actual, which is called measuring the performance. How do we do that? Using earned value analysis. Right? If you measure your performance, you'll also be able to forecast. Till now, we have spent this much amount of money. So in future, we may need something more, something less. Right? So once you know your past, you will be able to forecast the future as well. And if you see any variances, if you see any changes, you will have to make changes through, again, formal change request, integrated change control, and you will be able to control the cost. Right? So activities are already known to you. Estimate how much money would be needed. Add all those things up, you will get your budget. Take a sign off on that. That becomes your baseline. Right? Throughout the project, at a certain frequency, keep checking how much money you have spent and how much more you need, which is called funding limit reconciliation. Right? Keep tracking your expenditures and commitments. That will give you your actual cost. You know your plan. You have your actual. Measure your performance, plan versus actual. Right? If you see any variances, try to control the cost. Try to see what you can do in order to bring the cost down. That is what cost management is all about. Clear, everyone? Good revision for the activities. Any question in this? So how will the question be asked? Question will give you a scenario. In the scenario, they will talk about either of these activities. And then they will ask you, what will you do next? What is the first thing to do? What is the best next thing to do? Or what should the project manager do? All these questions mean the same thing. That after this activity, what will you do? Right? Logically, if you understand this, you will be able to see the options and compare what should happen. And if you know this sequence, you'll already know. Okay, the question is talking about estimating the cost. So what should happen next? We should provide the budget to the customer, to the management. We have question is talking about budget has been created. What will you do next? We'll take an approval. Right? Question is talking about a measurement where it says that the plan is, the actual is different from the plan. What will we do next? We'll control the cost. Right? So if you understand these activities in a sequence well, you will be able to answer all those questions that says what should the project manager do next, what should the first thing to do, what should be the best thing to do, what should the project manager do. All basically mean the same thing. After the activity given in the situation, what should the project manager do? Right? This is what will be asked in the exam from the three things that we have discussed. And in fact, you don't need to know anything more than whatever I have mentioned in this slide. And you will be able to answer it logically. Okay. Any questions, anyone?
Amit,
Okay, so there's this one question on the chat box. What is an earned value? Okay. See, earned value is basically an estimate of your actual work. Right? So what do? You say that, okay, in a project we started 6 months ago. Now at the end of 6 months, we are trying to check our performance. Right? So as of today is 25th Feb. So as of today, what is the work that you have actually completed? Let us say 50%. Right? Then you will go back to your budget document and you will say, okay, for 50% of the work that we have completed, what was our estimate? That will become your earned value. Right? Similarly, we have a planned value, which is an estimate of estimated work. So actual work is 50%, but what was my planned work? It was 40%. So what was the estimate of that? That will become your planned value. Similarly, you have an actual cost, which is nothing but your expenditures. How much we have spent already in completing this 50% work. That will become your actual cost in dollar. Right? When you compare earned value to planned value, you come to know your schedule performance. When you compare earned value to actual cost, you come to know your cost performance. Subtract it, you will get schedule variance. Divide it, you will get SPI. Right? Here, subtract it, you will get cost variance. Divide it, you will get CPI. Whenever you are subtracting or dividing, always keep earned value first. So earned value minus planned value, earned value divided by planned value. Earned value minus actual cost, earned value divided by actual cost. And you will come to know the SV and SPI value if at all the exam asks. Exam generally does not ask on any calculation, but if at all they ask, you should know this form. Is this what you wanted, Sonam? Is it clear?
Yes, Amit. Yes. Thank you so much.
No problems. So we have discussed the activities. Now let us move to the processes. Again, we are going to repeat the same thing that we have discussed. Only thing that will change is now we will look at the technical names that PMI uses in the standards. Okay. Sometimes in some question, very rarely, but in 2 or 3 questions, they might mention the process name itself. So you should be able to know it. If you know the activities, you will obviously know what the process is. Right? But it is a good thing to have a look at it. Don't try to memorize it. It will not help. But do understand the logical flow of the processes in every domain. Right? So processing scope, first thing, prepare a scope management plan. Right? Whenever you talk about processes, whenever you talk about doing anything, first thing is to prepare a plan. If you're talking about agile approaches, first thing is to discuss the plan. Here we create a document. So what will be the document? Scope management plan. After that, start collecting requirements. Talk to customers, talk to management, talk to team members, go through multiple documents, carry out benchmarking, and figure out as many requirements as possible. Analyze it, refine it, get it signed off. So create a requirement list and take a sign off that yes, these are the requirements that we have noticed in a requirements traceability matrix. Requirement traceability matrix helps you in tracing the requirement. When towards the end somebody says, okay, this is not what I wanted, you can always come back to the requirement traceability matrix and say that this is what we had identified. This person has given a sign off. That's why we have done it that way. Okay. Then you define the scope, where you create something called scope statement. Right? Scope statement basically tells us what is in the scope and what is out of scope. Both must be mentioned, so that there's a very clear understanding about what type of work are we supposed to do in this project. Right? These are all very, very specific to a particular project. Once you have defined the scope, you need to detail it, right, through a WBS. The reason they are calling it develop a scope structure and not WBS is because you also create something called product backlog in Agile. Right? So you are developing a scope structure. Either you create 100% of the project in a WBS, or you create something which is continuously developing, which is called product backlog. Right? For traditional approach project, we don't have to worry about backlog. We'll discuss this next week. For this week, it is all about WBS. Right? So once you have created a scope statement, we need to create a WBS. Once that is done, which means my structure is ready, you add a WBS dictionary, take a sign off, that becomes a scope baseline. After that, keep checking whether you are delivering exactly as per the plan or not. And once you are confirmed that yes, everything is fine, get it validated from the customer. Validate scope means getting acceptance from the customer. Keep this in mind. I'll remind it again when we're talking about exam mindset, but keep this in mind that validate scope does not mean validating scope statement. Validating the work that has been completed, not the document, but the actual work, actual product that has been completed. We are validating this with the customer. Okay, so these are the processes, nothing but the same thing that we discussed in general activities. In schedule, they talk about three processes. One is planning the schedule management. Second is developing the schedule. This is where you identify activities, sequence activities, estimate the duration, and then finally develop the schedule. And after that, monitoring and controlling the schedule. Whenever the team completes the work or at a decided frequency, every 7 days, 8 days, 10 days, you will check whether everything is happening as per the schedule or not. That's the third process. Okay. Then we have finance, same thing. Plan the financial management, right? How you are going to do that. Then estimate the cost, how much money would be needed. Develop the budget, which means your budget is now ready. Take a sign off, it becomes your cost baseline. After that, keep monitoring and controlling the finances throughout the project. Right? So these are your processes related to finance as well. So what have we done so far? We have discussed scope, schedule, and finance, and we tried to understand what generally happens in these areas so that you can create a mental picture of it. It was a part of a revision that we have discussed. Right? Any questions, anyone, before we move to exam mindset? Okay, so there's a question which says, can you discuss more on validate versus verify? See, verifying something is a group activity where you say, okay, this is my plan, and I'm trying to verify whether we have done the same thing or not. Validate in terms of scope. Right? This means going for acceptance. Customer is validating whether whatever the team has completed is exactly as per the requirements or not. Right? Validate and verify in general English almost mean the same thing. But here specifically, we are talking about acceptance. Right? And the reason I highlighted it is because sometimes we may get confused that I'm validating my scope statement. I'm not validating the document. I'm validating the work that I have completed. Okay, that's what validate is. Does that answer the question, Bernard? Another question, when we define the scope, we define the acceptance criteria as well, right? Yes, absolutely. So whenever you define the scope, you also mention what the acceptance criteria will be so that the team will know how and what they are supposed to build. Once they build it, they will test it according to the acceptance criteria themselves. The team will first test it, and then they'll go to the customer to ensure that the customer will also test it according to the acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
So answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
Yes, Shilpa, please, your question.
Amit, usually the plan of any activities will start, right?
Yeah.
All the processes, but defining and the planning, what is the difference? Like I literally got confused.
Okay. See, planning means you're trying to discuss the guidance. Okay. So whenever you look at a plan, it will say, do this, do that, do at this point of time, use this technique. It's a guidance, it's a suggestion, right?
No.
Always.
My point of
Defining
view is
something means
no.
information.
My point of view is like whenever we get a requirement we will be understanding the scope first, right? After that, we will be planning it, right? After that,
No,
we
no.
will start
Planning
doing.
will happen first. See, customer understands the scope little bit. Okay. They have an understanding that, okay, I want to construct a building, but
Okay.
they have not created the complete drawing of it. Right? So they don't know exactly what the door would look like, what the window would look like, which equipment will be there, which product will be there, which make will be there. Right? What we need to do is, as product team, we need to discuss with the customer, understand their need, and then define what they want. Correct? So we are defining what they want in detail. How will we do that? Will be there in the plan. Right. So you need to define the scope. How will you define the scope? You will talk to customers, you will talk to this, you will create a drawing, you will use AutoCAD, you will use something else, you will use this technique, you will be carrying out some meetings. So all those things will be a part of your plan. Right. So plan will tell you how will you define things. Plan will tell you which estimation technique you will use. Plan will tell you what template will be there for the budget. Plan will tell you which tools techniques you will use to monitor the finance. Right. So plan will tell you all the things that follows, how it will be done. Okay. So the difference between plan and develop or define is that plan tells you how do you define, how do you develop, what will you do so that you can develop it, and then you actually follow it and carry out the work.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It clarifies? Yeah. Perfect. Any other question, anyone, before we move to the exam mindset? Okay. So if not, then let us try to discuss few things on how the questions can be asked from these particular domain and what should we think, what should be there in our mind when we are answering the questions. Right? Starting with the scope first. Right? Scope basically means what is included and what is excluded. And keep this in mind. First, included and excluded both. What is in the scope and what is out of scope, both the things. And also what, not how. It does not talk about activity. Do this, do that. It does not talk about that. Also, not when. When is a part of your schedule. How is a part of your schedule. Right? So activities that you will carry out will be there as a part of schedule. When it will happen will be a part of schedule. In scope, we only say what is to be delivered. Window is to be delivered. Door is to be delivered. Fan is to be delivered. Furniture is to be delivered. And these are your what part of the scope. Okay. Second, in predictive approach projects, in traditional projects, requirements are defined upfront. If you are not clear with the requirements, use agile approach. You will use traditional approach, you will use predictive approach only if requirements are defined upfront. Second, in predictive approach projects, WBS is kind of mandatory because this is the only way you will know whether you have covered everything 100% or not. And it is deliverable oriented. Every WBS item will be a deliverable that you will show to the customer. Any change in the scope, go through the approved change request, which is called integrated change control. Always. Never will there be any change without the approvals. Okay. Then gold plating is not allowed. What is gold plating? Adding something extra more than the requirement just to keep the customer happy. Never do that. Right? Even if you think that it adds value, don't do it. Yes, you can discuss that, hey, I think this feature should be added. Let them agree to it. Let them approve it. Let them pay money for it and then do it. Okay. So even if you think it adds value, don't do it yourself. Right? Go through the change request, get it approved and then do it. Never give anything more than what is required. Right? Also, validation is not control, as we have discussed. Validation means going for formal acceptance. Control means managing changes. Right? We have discussed it multiple times. Keep this in mind. Don't get confused that we are validating the document. We are validating the work that has been completed because we want to get formal acceptance. Right? Now, if a question mentions unexpected work, added features, missing deliverables, think that they are talking about scope and handle it accordingly. Next is on the schedule. Right? Whenever you are answering questions related to schedule domain, you will see these are usually process driven. Okay, step by step we will do things. It will never be reactive. Right? What does it mean? It means that you will get a scenario. They'll give you a situation, a problem, a normal situation, and then they'll give you 4 options. You have to understand the situation, analyze for the impact, and then take decision. Don't just see the situation and take a decision. Somebody said that the team member is not working fine. You cannot fire the team member. Somebody said the work was not completed on time. You will not start doing something faster. You'll first understand what do they mean by not completed on time. How much delay is there? What type of delay has happened? What can be done? What could be the solution? What is the best solution possible? And then you will implement the solution. Right? So you will never be reactive. Reactive means jumping to conclusion, directly taking a decision. Don't do that. Understand the situation, analyze it well, know how it will impact, decide what should be the solution, what should be the action plan, and then do it. And doing the work is very, very at the end. Plan, analyze, discuss, deliberate, uh, have a conclusion done, and then go ahead with the action. Then go ahead with the decision. Okay. As we discussed, schedule baseline is approved before execution. And before you start doing the work, get it approved that, okay, these are the timelines at which we are supposed to work. Any change, go through integrated change control. Right? These are repeated. It is applicable for everything in the project. Any change happens, it should always go through integrated change control. Right? Then critical path determines the project duration. Right? Critical path is the longest duration path in your network. List of all, or in a series, all the activities put together. If you add the duration of it, it will become your project duration. Right? So that determines your project duration, not the float activities. Float basically means, see, in a network diagram, you will have multiple paths. Right? Let us say this is the longest duration path. So that becomes your critical path, which will take 23 weeks to complete. This is the not so longest, so non-critical path. This will take 22 weeks to complete, which means there's a float, there's a flexibility of 1 week available on this path. This does not define the project duration. This defines. Right? So your longest path duration defines the project duration, because how much time it will take to complete the project? 23 weeks. Can you do it in 22 weeks? No, because this is taking 23 weeks. I just cannot complete the project in 22 weeks. Even if I can finish all these things in 22 weeks, I would still need 1 more week to complete the last activity here. Right? So keep an eye on critical path whenever it is mentioned. That defines the project duration. Right? Then many a times you will have to apply schedule compression techniques because the project is already delayed, or the customer wants you to do work faster, or the management wants you to complete the work faster. You can use 2 things: fast tracking or crashing. Fast tracking means looking at activities in series and checking the possibilities of doing that in parallel. The minute you convert anything that is happening in series to parallel, it increases the risk. Right? For example, first we need to paint the wall, and then we need to work on ceiling. Let's assume that. If you start doing both the things in parallel, there's a risk that the paint will fall on the ceiling work will fall on the wall. Somebody's painting, they will get hurt. So there's a risk of damage because you're doing 2 things in parallel. So whenever you try to do things in parallel, it is called fast tracking. And whenever you do fast tracking, the risk increases. Crashing means completing the same activity faster. So adding more resources and completing the work faster. Whenever you add more resources, it will increase the cost. So you are not saying that we will do painting and ceiling together. You're saying first we'll do painting, then we'll do ceiling. But I'm crashing this painting activity by adding more painters. I'm crashing that ceiling completion activity by adding more people who are working on ceiling. Right? That is what is called crashing. And the minute you add more resources, you are increasing the cost. Right? Remember this will definitely be tested in the exam. Then if the question is talking about delay, dependency, compression, milestones, know that it is a question of schedule and answer accordingly. Also, never ever adjust the dates to keep stakeholders happy. Whatever decision that you take in the exam, whatever option that you select in the exam, it should always be for the benefit of project. Never for the stakeholders' happiness, never for the team's happiness, never for the government happiness, prime minister, president's happiness, doesn't matter. Right? What matters is it beneficial for the project or not? So we will take all the decisions that are beneficial for the project. If there are 3 decisions mentioned in the question, we will select that decision which is the most beneficial in the project. Okay, that's how you answer the questions related to schedule. Third part is your cost or finance. Right? Cost baseline is not project budget. It's just a reference against which you mention your measure your performance. Add contingency reserve to the cost baseline, then it becomes a project. Okay, so contingency reserve must be added in the cost baseline. Then in predictive projects, earned value analysis is the primary performance tool. Right, so we know this, we have discussed it. Variance drives analysis before action. So if you measure your plan versus actual, and if you see that there's a difference, you are under budget, you are over budget, you are overrunning the cost, then first you need to analyze. Analyze means first you need to understand why it is happening. Then discuss what can be done. In what can be done, you will have 3 to 4 options that these things can be done. Select that choice which will be maximum or most beneficial for your project. Right? So whenever you are monitoring the performance, you need to understand the plan versus actual. If both are same, good. If both are not same, which means there's a variance. Whenever there's a variance, always look for root cause analysis and then solve the problem. Right? Key indicators, CPI less than 1 means over budget. CV less than 0 means again over budget, which is called cost overrun. Means the same thing. Over budget and cost overrun means the same thing. Corrective actions always follow analysis, not assumptions. Do not assume anything in the PMP exam. Whatever you need has been given in the question. Read that, analyze it. If the options are talking about corrective action, a decision, something that you must do, ensure that the analysis is already done. If analysis is not done, select that option which is talking about analysis. What does it mean? Meeting, discussion, carrying out impact analysis, carrying out root cause analysis. These are your part of analysis. Changing the schedule, reassigning the work, hiring somebody, firing somebody, looking at subject matter expert, changing the vendor, changing the supplier. These are your actions. Right? So first you should analyze by discussing, talking, deliberating, finding out root cause. That is your first activity. Then you carry out the action. Okay. Analysis first, actions later. Right? Ultimately, the point is understand the situation, analyze, and then take decision. Understand, analyze, decide. If your question, situation, scenario that is given in the question is talking about some problem, which means you have understood there is a problem. What will you do next? You will understand the root cause. And then you will decide the solution. If they're talking about a change request, what will you do first? You'll understand what would be the impact of this change. Then you will decide whether to do the change or not. If they talk about any other situation, first you will understand it, then analyze it, and then decide what needs to be done. And keep this in mind, it will help you solve 40 to 50 questions of process domain. Right? If the question is talking about overruns, forecast, reserves, funding approvals, it's a part of finance domain. Right? You might have seen that I have gone through the points one by one, giving less examples than I regularly do in the training program. It is because we are doing a revision. Right? So if you have any questions, please do ask. Right? Ensure that as a project manager, do not spend management reserves without approval. Management reserve, the name itself suggests, is for the management, not for us. Okay. Yes, Sonam, your question, please.
Yes, Amit, like you mentioned, analyze, right? And then, discuss and then take the decision. So if there is a concern related to cost, that will also be discussed within the team. I mean, the decision will
Yes.
be
First, we'll
okay.
discuss within the team because team is the technically doing things. They understand it well, right? So we'll take their inputs, we'll discuss with them. Together, we will decide. And then if it needs to change the plan, then we'll go for change request, we'll get for approval. If
Yeah.
we decided something which does not need to change the plan, we'll just carry out the work.
Okay. And one more thing, the first point which says cost baseline not equal to project budget. Uh, can you please reiterate this? I missed
See,
it.
cost baseline is basically whatever you have estimated.
Hmm.
Okay, for every activity, you
Hmm.
take a sign off.
Hmm.
That becomes your cost baseline. But you
Hmm.
have not yet added the contingency reserve.
Hmm.
Contingency reserves are added for low priority risks.
Hmm.
Okay. So for low priority risk, there are some contingency reserve that we keep, which we,
Hmm.
in general, we call it as petty cash.
Hmm.
That we keep some reserves with us for the
Hmm.
problems that we have identified, but we think those are not big problems.
Hmm.
Right? So we can handle it. So it is also a part of our budget. So when the management says that this is your budget, it's the estimated cost that they have signed off plus the contingency reserve.
So project budget will include contingency reserve, but cost baseline will not include contingency reserve,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct. So there was one question on the chat box. Is there any key indicator for SPI also? Yes. SPI or CPI. If it is less than 1, which means we are not doing good in terms of cost or schedule. If the CV is cost variance or schedule variance is less than 0, it means we are not doing good in terms of schedule or cost. Right? That is what we have to keep in mind. CPI numbers would be like 1.2, 0.8, 0.9, something like these numbers. SV and CV, because it is a difference between numbers. So it's like $1 million minus $86,000 or $860,000. Right? So these numbers would be like $54,000, $25,000, $86,000. Right? So these will be bigger numbers. This will be small decimal numbers. SPI and CPI. Why? Because this is a division and this is a subtraction. So either for CPI or SPI, if the less number is less than 1, bad work. If the CV or SV is less than 0, bad work again. This is what we have to keep in mind. Bad work basically means not as per the plan. Clear, everyone? Any questions, any doubts?
Meet, I have a doubt in this.
Please, please.
Suppose in question they are saying like CPI or SPI 0.96, 0.9 in the range of 0.92. So what will be considered, like it is the project is in a good state or still like it's
It's
because it's a
okay. See, it's okay, but it is not as per the plan.
okay.
It's not very bad, but it's not as per the plan. Only when SPI is equal to 1, only then it means that you are delivering exactly as per the plan. Only when CPI is equal to 1, only then you are delivering exactly as per the cost budget. Right? If it is 0.99 also, it's not as per the plan, but it's a good thing to have. Right? 99% efficiency is not a bad thing. 96% efficiency is not a bad thing. Now it all depends on your organization. If your organization says no, 99 is bad, right? Then they are probably not practical enough. Practically, you will fall in this range itself, even if you are doing very, very good job. Right? So these are not bad numbers, but definitely behind schedule, definitely over budget. Little bit, but over budget. Little bit, but behind schedule.
Okay.
Okay. We should look at one or more than one.
Got it. So ideally, so in that case, our say, like answering this type of question, how we have to go ahead. Like if suppose the options are saying like project is on track or project is impossible to meet the expected budget
These
or
are not impossible. 0.96 and 0.99 does not say that it is impossible. It can definitely be managed. Okay. In fact, just by looking at numbers, you cannot say whether it is impossible or not. Right. But what they will ask you is, they'll give you these numbers and they'll ask you, why do you think this happened? Okay. And then they'll give you 4 options. There was a delay by the
okay.
supplier. Team members made a mistake. Customer added one more scope point. Right? These are your reasons why this could happen. So as a project manager, what are you supposed to do? Your team will calculate this or a software will give you this number. Right? Practically thinking. Software will give you this number or the team will calculate it. You as a project manager needs to understand first that yes, it is less than 1 means we are not doing good. Then the second thing what you will do, okay, why does this happen? Why are we running behind schedule? Right? So you'll try to find out what could be the reasons. That's what they will test. After that, what you will do as a project manager, you will say, okay, if these are the reasons, what can we do now? How do you solve this problem? That's what they will ask. So they will tell you that, okay, your SPI is 0.96. What will you do now? So there will be some options of fast tracking, crashing, something of that sort. Whichever is applicable, you will select that. Right. So in the exam, they will not ask you how to calculate SPI and CPI. Very simple thing, not a project manager's responsibility. Project manager's responsibility is to understand what that number means, then be able to figure out why that problem happened, and then be able to figure out how to solve that. That's the project manager's job, and that will be tested in the exam.
Okay.
Okay, Priya?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, Amit. Yeah.
Perfect. No problems. Any other question, anyone? Please guide us on when PM is expected to escalate. Whenever the question says project manager has tried something, right? In any ways, they say that PM has tried something, only then you escalate, which is maybe one question in the exam. 179 questions out of 180, you will not escalate. Maybe one question. And when do you escalate? When the situation very clearly says, right, not an assumption that they must have tried. No. PM has tried, which means project manager has tried. Only then you will escalate. They have tried but failed. If it is very clearly mentioned in the question, only then you escalate. Otherwise, you don't. Clear, Delphin? Is that answer okay?
But I have one more question to
Yeah,
clarify,
please.
please. So, I'm not quite sure if the PM scope is sometimes limited. Like, I think I was going through some of the questions or something. Unfortunately, I didn't record which question. So, it requested that we escalate because it was not within the scope or jurisdiction of the PM. So that's why I'm confused, because I know
Okay.
escalation
It
is
must be mentioned in the situation. Okay. What I understand from your point is that if the scope of project manager is limited, right, then there has to be some information in the question that says that it is limited. Okay.
Okay.
Only then you escalate. Otherwise, you don't. See, the point is that we as a project manager have been hired to manage the project. We have our team, we have subject matter experts, everybody is there. So we can handle it. Right? But if it has gone beyond our authority, only then we will escalate. In the exam, how would I know it has gone beyond my authority? Unless and until they mention it. It has to be mentioned, only then we'll escalate. Either it will be
Okay,
a hint or it will be directly mentioned, but that question must say that yes, it has gone beyond authority, only then we'll escalate.
Okay. Then in terms of maybe conflict resolution, is it the PM's duty to manage or usually to transfer to HR?
Basically, what we do is first we help the team. Okay. So in conflicts, what will happen? There will be a party A and party B. They will have a conflict, right? So first they will try to resolve it among themselves. After that, the project manager will help them understand what is happening, why it is happening. They'll try to discuss, bring the facts and everything, and then they will solve it. Okay, this is how we do it. First, within the conflicting members, then the project manager should help. Project manager is a servant leader. They should always be looking to help their team members. How do they do it? By calling a meeting. Hey, come together. You think it is red? Do you think it is white? Let's come together and discuss. Why do you think it is red? Why do you think it should be white? Okay, they will have their own reasons. Then the project manager will help them understand the reason. Is it beneficial for the project? Is this beneficial for the project? And ultimately try to conclude through collaboration. Okay, that's the best way of handling conflict. Sometimes, very rarely, in the exam, maybe one question. Again, I'm saying maybe one question, may not be even one. Right? Sometimes PM might need to take a decision. So if PM has to take a decision whether to go with opinion of A or opinion of B, it should always be for the benefit of project. Right? Not to keep this person happy, whether it is a stakeholder, sponsor, management, prime minister, president, doesn't matter. I am not here to keep one person happy. I am here to make the project beneficial. So if I have to take a decision, first, I will not take a decision. I'll always involve people and try to conclude as with collaboration. If that is also not working, it's taking a lot of time and I need to get involved, then I'll get involved and I'll take that decision which is most beneficial for the project. That's how you handle conflicts.
All right, thank you, Amit.
No problems. Yes, Onam, please, your question.
Amit, I wanted to add here, like, in this situation, like you said, regarding this conflict, when, project manager will take the decision. So while I was practicing, there was one question. So I think I discussed with you as well. So why, in that situation, project manager, took the decision, because in the question, it was clearly mentioned that there was a time constraint, and that was the reason, project manager did not focus on resolving the conflict. Instead, he took the decision himself. So I think, when I was discussing with you, so
Right.
in that situation, I think project manager can take the decision when there is conflict, and they are not able to reach consensus, but there is a time constraint. So then, I think it would
Yeah.
be
And
okay.
why is the project manager doing that? Because if for the
Hmm.
benefit of the project.
Project,
If
correct.
the project manager, he or she, does
Hmm.
not take that decision,
Hmm.
right, the project will get delayed. The
Correct.
question is very clearly saying that the team is having conflict.
Hmm.
They are not able to resolve among themselves. There's a
Correct.
time constraint. So yes, the
Hmm.
project manager should help and should take the decision at that point of time, because it is ultimately for the benefit of the project.
Project, correct.
Yeah. Perfect. Yes, Priya, your question, please.
Yeah, I mean, just one question. So
Yeah.
compliance requirement is a part of scope
Yes.
baseline, or
Yes.
it
Yes.
is a
It's
part
a
of
part of scope.
quality?
No, no, it's a part of scope.
Okay,
Quality
okay,
requirements also part of scope. See, quality requirements, compliance requirements, safety requirements, you capture all those requirements, right? At that point of time, you are not thinking whether this requirement, that requirement, right? And then you summarize, these are my quality requirements, these are my communication requirements, these are my safety requirements, these are my privacy requirement, right? You can put them into different buckets. And when you put them into different buckets, that's when you understand what my scope could be. Okay, so first you list down all the requirements, then you summarize it, and you try to understand what my scope statement would look like. Answer to your question is
okay,
yes.
okay. Okay. And I mean, in mid of the project, suppose in the execution stage, if we find like some compliance requirement has came or something
Mhm.
like that happen, so how the flow will go in that case? Like we will go and modify
Integrated
the
change control.
scope.
It's a
No, no,
change.
but okay,
It's
but
a
it
change.
will.
You need to handle it as an integrated change control. Same thing.
Okay,
A change request
got
needs
it.
first, right? A new compliance has come. It will change everything in the plan, right? So first a change request need to go. It need to be analyzed, approved by the change control board. Then the team will implement it.
Okay,
It's a
got it.
change, whether it is a new addition, whether it is a subtraction, whether it is removal of any scope or requirement, it's a change. And change must always go through integrated change control.
Yeah, got
Yeah,
it. Got
same
it.
process. Perfect. Great questions, everyone. All right, then this was about scope, schedule, and finance. Tomorrow we'll talk about people. Okay, we'll talk about stakeholder and we'll talk about resources. Now, yesterday when we were talking about it, I said that the people domain, there's hardly anything that you can draw a line saying that this is the agile part, this is the traditional part. Okay. When you are handling people, you are a leader. Right? Now, whether you are in operations, whether you are in projects, whether you are in traditional approach, hybrid approach, agile approach, doesn't matter. You would deal with people or you will lead the team, you will engage with stakeholders in the same manner, with politeness, with kindness. Right? Hence, this is difficult to draw a line between traditional and agile approach in terms of people domain. So tomorrow, when we discuss the stakeholder and resources, we will focus on those specific things that are related to predictive approach. Okay. And then when we meet next week, we will talk about adaptive, which is agile. Okay. So tomorrow we'll discuss stakeholder and resources. And day after tomorrow, we'll talk about risk. Is this helping everyone?
Yes,
You think
Amit.
you'll be able to answer more questions correctly, faster?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good to know that. If you think anything else also is to be added for the revision, I should discuss something else as well. Do let me know. Okay, on the chat box, you can send me an image uh, a message whenever you can. You want to call me and tell me, just let me know that, okay, hey, I am facing a difficulty in this thing. Can you create a revision session around that? I'll try to create it. Okay. The whole objective is to help you pass the exam as early as possible. Right. So for that, whatever is needed, we'll be doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I want one session for hybrid, Amit, for hybrid approach, if possible, you to take that session. It's fine.
Yes. So once we complete the agile part, I'll have one session on hybrid. I'm actually creating a video on that. Okay. So that should help you. If not, then we'll cover a live session as well.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you tomorrow when we were discussing the stakeholder and resources. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amit,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
please go ahead.
Amit, can you stay on the call? Like, can we discuss those 3 questions quickly if you have time?
Currently, let's discuss tomorrow. Okay, because I have to get on another call. I'm already
Oh,
15 minutes late.
oh, okay.
So let's discuss tomorrow. I'll inform you on that.
Or maybe you can just review and send me a voice note on all those
Yeah.
3 questions.
We'll do that. Okay.
Whatever
No
suits
problem.
you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amity.
Thank you so much.